Performance reviews, love them or dread them, they shape careers. But here's the hard truth. For too long, they've been riddled with bias, inconsistencies, and missed opportunities, leaving individuals feeling undervalued, managers feeling overwhelmed, and organizations stuck in the past. If you're a leader tired of outdated systems and craving a better way to empower your team, this conversation is for you. Today, we're pulling back the curtains with two trailblazing founders who are reshaping the way we measure growth, leadership, and potential. Kristin and Laneisha Roberts, co-founders of ReviewTailor, are here to show us how AI and intentional design can finally bring alignment, accountability, and equity to performance reviews. Let's welcome them to the show. Welcome to Sunday SoulDay, ladies.
Hey.
It's an honor to be here.
I'm so excited that you guys are here. Thank you for joining me and saying yes.
Absolutely. It's been a long time coming, Demisha. So
I know.
definitely looking forward to
I
this
know I
day.
featured you guys in my newsletter in
That's right.
Soul Feeler Journal after we had just incredible conversations. And so I was so excited to get you guys on. I love your product. I love what you guys are doing, what more importantly, what it stands for, and the impact that you have already made, in such a short time. So I thought we'd start the audience off with just getting to know you guys a little bit better. How did you first connect? And what inspired you to even create ReviewTailor?
No, absolutely. We get this question all the time. Kristin and I, we connected through our shared passion for being in community with other women, just doing amazing things. We were both members of a shared community. And through conversations, we realized there were some synergies and a shared purpose of helping those who are often underrepresented to excel, not just in the workplace, but also in life. So at the end of, I think it was 2022, we were both in the midst of performance review cycles, and we began to recap our shared experiences and the pain points of the process, which you can imagine was a very heated conversation. Kristin sharing through the lens of HR and me sharing through the lens of a people leader, just frustrated with the cumbersome process. And so to us, two pain points stood out. One time, on average, managers spend about 210 hours a year on performance management, but still 90% of performance reviews are ineffective. So let that sink in. The second was traditional performance management systems can be subjective and biased, and employees are often under-equipped to advocate for themselves. So we decided, why not us? Why not now to take action and do something about it? And so that was really the genesis around ReviewTailor.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. And I can truly attest to those numbers because working as a people leader in tech, in really smaller organizations to a little bit larger, like more mid-sized, 200, a little over 200, it takes so much time, from the managers. And if there isn't even a great process, for evaluating talent, throughout the year, even having a process, it is so difficult for managers to give an actually great review. And so first and foremost, I love the name. How did you guys come up with the name?
There were a couple of names out there, and this one really stuck because it kind of embodied what we're doing with the product, which is tailoring the reviews to the individual. Instead of having a generic conversation, generic reviews that we've all probably heard of and seen before. So that's how we came up with ReviewTailor. So just think of it backwards, tailor, review.
I love it. That is so good. That is so good. Well, talk to me about, because I know this firsthand, but for our audience who isn't as familiar, maybe they're on the receiving end of actually receiving a performance review. But how does traditional performance reviews fall short, and what impact does, this have on the employees' really career growth?
Yeah, so it really follows an outdated system in several ways where reviews tend to be very infrequent, right? So very subjective, very misaligned with actual business impact. And many companies still rely on an annual review process. So Demisha, you just mentioned like that once a year conversation, and it's really hard to compress an entire year's worth of work in a single conversation. And that leads to recency bias where only like the most recent accomplishments or those missteps are actually considered. or halo horn effect is a really big one, right? So we think about the single strong or that single weak impression that skews the entire review. And so this flawed approach in itself directly affects career growth. So employees are often not receiving that timely feedback. That's making it really hard to make adjustments throughout the year and improve in real time. And also, I'll say this, like for me, compensation is a really big piece, right? So compensation, promotions, development opportunities are all tied to the reviews. And so when they're inconsistent or when they're biased, it can lead to those missed raises. It can lead to that stalled career and employee disengagement. But there's also a bigger issue that companies aren't effectively using the data for from reviews to actually assess their internal talent pipeline. And so too often those reviews get treated as like a one-off admin task rather than an actual tool that can be used to help people to really grow and identify those high po talent employees and figure out what those skills gaps are. So it's a disservice to the business and the employee all in one.
You're speaking a language that I know will resonate so deeply with people because, I again firsthand saw like just the impact that it had not only on employees, but even my own personal journey. When there isn't a process in place or
Mhm.
even a system for, checking the ladder that people are on or seeing if they're able to like what does it even take to get to the next level, like there's nothing defined, and so it makes reviews like 10 times harder. But then also I saw managers who showed favoritism to other employees and who maybe look like them, and they gave them substantial raises whereas they may have given someone else maybe a minority, hate to say it, but it's
Mhm.
the truth, maybe a little bit less, and so that's been my experience where, even myself, like running an entire department as the head of talent or VP of talent, that we all have HR people have so many names, but running a department, I would be paid as a director,
Mm.
and so not having a process for even all of those different levels is so important. And so I just love that you guys are thinking about that, and really trying to remove as much bias as you can in the process. So that's incredible. Now, talk to me a little bit about this because, AI is being integrated more and more into HR tech. And, I want to know how you guys are thinking about that for ReviewTailor. Like, how are you guys using that? And what role do you see AI playing in the future of performance management tools?
Yeah, absolutely. So we leverage AI technology to make it easy for both leaders and employees to draft their performance reviews backed by objective data, which then reduces, going back to your previous point, bias in the process. So I know the pain of having to write multiple reviews and wanting to make sure that they are truly value added and actionable. That takes time, especially when you're starting from a blank slate. So with Review Tailor, you'll never start from a blank screen. We aggregate the employee and manager data so that each review is tailored to the individual. So no more receiving a copy and pasted review referencing, John when it should have been addressed to Janet. All of this happens in a matter of seconds. So we're making the process 10 times faster, leveraging the AI technology piece. So it's pretty awesome. And then, through that process, we're able to give leaders that time back so
Mhm.
they can direct that to true talent development efforts. Where we see AI in the future, the future is about making performance management proactive, not reactive. And we see AI playing a huge role in that. So, for example, identifying trends early. AI can analyze patterns and performance data and flag areas where an employee may need coaching or support before problems actually escalate. So that would be a game changer, for all parties involved.
Absolutely. Well, even just the time back is huge. Like it's such a huge thing with the managers. I mean, I have seen like just how much time goes into reviews and even thinking about, goal setting, for the next year and all of those things. So that alone is just going to be such a game changer. And then I see AI doing so many things. Like it is rapidly changing. And I'm, just what it's been able to do, just really in the whole HR recruiting space. I'm so amazed by it. And so I love that you guys are already using it and thinking of it like that. Whereas a lot of other tools that I've come across, they're kind of just catching up.
While AI adoption in HR is growing, many performance management tools still lack integrated AI capabilities. As of 2024, only 38% of HR leaders reported actively using AI tools in their work, despite a positive outlook on AI's potential benefits. However, projections indicate that by the end of 2025, 85% of organizations will utilize AI to enhance their performance management processes.
You both kind of transitioned out of corporate careers. What was the biggest mindset shift that you had to make going into being a founder?
So for me, I would say letting go of perfection. And that was a huge one for myself because it's such a perfectionist. In corporate, you have structure and predictability, but in startups, it's about moving fast, iterating, and then embracing the unknown. And that was scary, for me at first, I'll be truly honest. Making decisions without, incomplete information, and then understanding that done is often better than perfect. That was a huge mind shift. I've learned that perfection can slow you down, but progress really keeps you in the game. And so the key is to stay flexible, learn quickly, and then refine as you go. So that's been the hugest mindset shift for me.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's been that it's on me to get it done. So in the corporate space, at someone else's company, I'm hired to do a certain thing, to do it well, and that's it. And if you have a great idea and you want to be ambitious, you can do a bit more. But with the startup, the great idea that you have is on you to develop and to manage and to execute and to grow. And I'm so used to being the brains behind a particular initiative and program design, that I'm still shifting my mindset to be that, if you don't do it, it won't get done, no matter how great of an idea it is, it could actually work. So execute, execute, execute is my mindset today.
I love that. And I love the perfectionism as well. Like that was difficult for me initially. But one thing I am great at doing is like just doing and trying and iterating on that. And so I think a large part of my kind of mindset shift was also around, just letting go and releasing I would say just the attachment to the outcome, and really trying to enjoy the process. And so like that was a huge one for me because, in working in corporate, it's like you have initiatives like Kristin was talking about, and you kind of like have a direct line to the outcome, and of course things can go wrong and, but it's so different in entrepreneurship because every day is so different and everything is changing. And when you're creating something from scratch, it's, there's so many things that can go wrong, but also like go right. And so I think like releasing, my attachment to the outcome and just really enjoying the process was a good one for me.
Yeah, for sure. I have this sign above my desk here that says "Do it scared,"
Yes.
which is my mantra for the current, first half of the year. Because you'll never get to that state of that you're trying to get to if you don't even take the first step because of fear or whatever. So no, it all ties back to the, perfectionism and letting that go and failing at fast, as they say.
Yes, absolutely. Well, now you guys, when you got started, you joined Techstars. Like, tell me a little bit about, your experience with Techstars and how has the program kind of helped shape your growth and direction of ReviewTailor?
Yeah, so we participated in the Techstars EquiTech program last year. Techstars really forced us to narrow our focus, which is
Mm,
scary at first because it's early stage founders. You have a tendency to want to do it all, serve everyone, build everything today. When in reality, there's levels to the startup journey. And so the analogy that was used was that, you're at a toddler stage trying to do tasks designed for adults, which isn't beneficial to the business. And I know Kristin and I, that day we were in the class, we're like, wow, it's true eye opener for us. So we really got down to the basics during our 3 month stint with Techstars. So focusing primarily on customer discovery, truly understanding the pain points of our target audience, and then getting closer to, the problem. You'd be surprised how many founders start building, building, building before starting with those foundational, pieces and having those conversations. So that really helped us a lot and likely saved us a lot of time and resources. Another benefit of participating in Techstars is access to the Techstars network and being afforded opportunities to have access to key people that just based on your affiliation with Techstars. So it was a great experience, and we're glad we did it early in our journey instead of getting too far down the road.
Yes, and I've seen people participate in Techstars, and they're located all over the place. For people who aren't as familiar, in a lot of different states. And like you said, like sometimes they'll participate a little bit later, and they're unlearning and undoing a lot of things that they did. And that was one of my biggest challenges as when I was building my coaching business. I was like, I want to coach everybody. I want to like help as many people as I can, and when you're doing that, you're really helping no one, and you're not solving a specific problem, And so I love that you got that early on and allowed you guys to really hone in on your ideal customer and also the problem that you were solving.
No, absolutely. That narrow focus really, really helped us for sure. Because we had a very broad view of who we wanted to serve. And it was kind of like a gut punch at first, like, man, we got to cut it in half. We got to focus on just this one lane for these next 3 months. But it turned out to be something that we really needed in the long run.
Yeah. And what was that process like? Like when you guys kind of, got started, for people who aren't as familiar with the Techstar family and just that process, what was that initial process like to even get picked?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, there's Techstars programs, accelerator programs all throughout the country. And, different ones have different focuses. So, for example, there's a Techstars workforce development program. There's a Techstars program that's focused specifically on CPG or consumer product good-based companies. So first, it helps to really understand, your lane and which program would be a nice fit. And then from there, we apply. So there's an online application that asks questions about your company. And so usually what they say is it's good, even if you don't get selected, to do the application, because the application forces you to think about things you should have readily available already, like company specific metrics, traction, who your ideal customer is and things of that sort. But we applied to maybe 4 or so locations. And, we apply to one, we make it to the first round. Apply to another, and made it to the second round. And then we applied to the Baltimore program. Yeah, completely forgot we applied to that one. And we got a call from there, and then we made it through. I think there's like three rounds of interviews.
Yeah. Wow.
And then we got the email that we were selected to participate. And so I think with that particular program, there was alignment with the team that was in charge of sourcing these companies. And so it really helps when folks can understand your product and who you're serving. Because when we pitched it, it was like, oh, performance reviews. Absolutely. Say less. I completely understand there's a need for this. So that was super, super helpful, and I think benefited us with moving along in the interview process.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am so proud of you guys, first of all, just for like, as a founder, sometimes it's so easy when you kind of hit those roadblocks or you experience those no's to, quit. And the fact that you guys just like kept going and, kept trying, like it's a real testament to your passion, first of all, for what you're building, and also just your resilience. So I love that.
I have a folder in my Outlook specifically for the no's or the rejections. We actually call rejection emails, and I toss them in there every time we get a no, and take a peek at it every now and then. But it's nice to look back and reflect and say, oh, these programs told us no, but this one told us yes, and it changed our trajectory. So
Yes.
we want to embrace those no's.
Yes. I love that. I love that you use that too. Excuse me, as motivation. Like I love that. Like I love when I get rejections. I've trained myself to get comfortable with rejection because I've experienced so much of it. So I love that. Now, besides that process and, kind of narrowing your focus and, just the kind of normal challenges that most founders face, like what would you say has been your biggest challenge and also your wins, like since launching ReviewTailor?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge for us has been centered around the sales process. We don't come from traditional sales backgrounds. And so me personally, I've gained a newfound appreciation for every sales professional because it's not easy. But what is built within us is resilience and like a heightened sense of creativity. As I mentioned, how can we turn those no's into something that's positive and use those to keep us going? Because as founder-led salespeople, we receive more no's than yeses. Some memorable wins for us, going from idea to product, and then from product to getting our first paying customer. I remember the day we got our first paying customer, we were like, oh boy.
Somebody actually paid us for this thing.
I love it.
We're not playing anymore. But outside of the company metrics, for us, it's really been rewarding to see how individuals have embraced our single user freemium version that we offer. So the folks who are using that solution, they typically want to take control of their own performance narrative. So they're able to keep track of their performance data and take it with them no matter who their employer is, because their account is not associated with a business account. And so this is a huge win because it brings it all full circle and ties into one of the reasons we set out on this journey, which is to equip the under-resourced and underrepresented with tools to succeed in the workplace and beyond.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. I can only imagine how exciting that was when you're building a product to get your first paying customer and then the next one after that. So I hope you guys are celebrating all of them because it's such a I just remember like my first time building, my coaching business, not a product business service. And that first client, was such a win. But I'm like, I want to actually celebrate every client after that, So I developed my own, kind of system, which I stole from early on. I was working in a company that used to celebrate by playing this James Brown doll. Okay. And we would go over every time we got a recruiting, deal or what have you, we'd go over and play this James Brown doll and he would dance and sing, I feel good. And it would literally dance to it. So I totally stole that, and I play his music when I make a sale. So,
James Brown. Gotta go check that out after this.
I know. Well, I love it. We'll celebrate each win because, it is truly remarkable. And, what right now, like, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, from, an employee, or actually, I would say employer standpoint, like, who are you targeting right now? Like, are you targeting more startups? Are you working with larger organizations? Tell us a little bit about your customer.
Yeah, so for us, we want to be a company's first solution. Once they're sick and tired of dealing with those spreadsheets or manual paper-based processes. So our initial target is really companies that are under that 100 employee mark, because that's usually when we see typically between that 50 to 100 employee mark, companies begin to start looking for a traditional performance management software to meet their needs.
Yes, perfect. That's so great because you never know who's listening. And so, anyone who's looking for a tool, I'm telling you, this is it. Like, you don't need to shop anymore. Like, definitely check them out. But I love that 100, mark because that's typically, I would say, like around 50 people is when you start even thinking about it because you just get too big to do just those kind of one-off reviews. And so, anyone between that stage, 50 and 100, definitely check them out. Tell me a little bit about like just your entrepreneur journey in itself, because it can be very demanding. And, I'm so curious, I ask everyone this on the show because, we're all doing different things, wearing so many different hats in our personal and our professional lives. Like, how do you guys fuel yourself back up? Like it's the two of you right now, and, how do you take care of your mind, your body, and your soul to stay kind of grounded and energized?
Yeah, I'll speak for me and something about Laneisha and I, we're both serial entrepreneurs. And so we have ReviewTailor together, but we also have separate things that we're also trying to build simultaneously at the same time. So it's always constant. I've recently have dived head first into my personal healing journey. And so for me, it means like really putting myself first so that everything else in my life has the opportunity to align and flourish. So, it's starting the first 2 to 4 hours of my day uninterrupted with prayer, reciting affirmations, meditation, gym, stillness. And I'm unwilling to not do those things because they're for me. So I start my day pretty early, which is like around 4 a.m. And then usually on Sundays, I'm pretty diligent about taking the last several hours of the day to prepare on focusing for the week. So that could be, aligning my calendars because I have like 9 calendars, or it could be picking out my clothes for the week, or cleaning, or, meal prepping, updating my task list, whatever it is that I can do to make sure that I'm navigating as smoothly as possible without any added stress or anxiety, right? So that, and then therapy and journaling. And so mentally preparing each morning and each evening to be intentional because, again, I have to go execute. No one's going to show up and do it for me.
Yes. Well, before we get into Laneisha's process, like I first want to commend you on going on your healing journey. I'm so proud of you, and I don't know if anyone's told you that, but I am, because it is such a beautiful thing as a Black woman, really any race, but especially for us because we aren't given a lot of space to do that. And so we have to carve out that space for ourselves in our lives and to really intentionally, like you're doing, carve out time to really focus on ourselves, which we're just not programmed to do. We're programmed to show up for everyone else first, and then whatever's left over we give to ourselves. And so I am just incredibly proud of you. And it's a large reason why I began my coaching program, because I went through my healing journey for about 10 years. And had ups and downs throughout the process, but learned so much and just immersed myself into so many things that I now have a, course and coaching program that I'm building in a community centered around her leadership garden. And so, I tell people, treat yourself like a garden. So that's incredible, first of all. And also I love that you get up that early to carve out time. Like I'm still working on getting up at 5. Like that's a real struggle for me. Okay. Like I'm gonna be totally honest, but I am trying to give myself more time in the morning, because I usually give myself a little over an hour, like hour and 10 minutes before my kids kind of get up. But gosh, okay, I'm gonna try that 4 a.m. I'm gonna see if I can do it.
It's tough.
What about you, Laneisha? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. I'll add real quick. I love what you're building with her leadership garden. I think I was able to attend your webinar last week or the week prior, and that's an amazing community, and I think it's definitely much needed. So congrats to you as well for building that community. For me, I start each day not as early as Kristin. I don't know how she she does it, but I start each day with the daily devotional reading. So shout out to the Bible app and prayer. It's allowed me to build that consistency. And really, if I don't start my day with prayer, the day just isn't right. After I wrap up for the day, so we're kind of opposite. I take the gym on the back end of the day. So once everything is complete, I head to the gym to work out. And so as much as I wish I could work out one day and drop 10 pounds, it's not happening. But I've learned through going to the gym and building that habit and consistency. It also ties directly into what we're doing in the professional, setting with building a startup. Things don't take place overnight. And it takes that daily diligence to get up and say, oh, I'm going to do the things that aren't sexy, the things that I really don't want to do, or the things that might not be my most skilled area, such as founder-led sales. But we'll keep building on that muscle there. But yeah, those are typically, the two. Outside of that is, traveling, seeing the world. And if there's a beach, I try to make it my point to be close and nearby.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. I love the beach. That's like one of my favorite places on earth. I would say really any body of water. I see a body of water, I'm pulling my car over. I don't care what's happening, if I'm be late somewhere. Like I just take it in because it's such a great centering space for me. So I love to really put myself around any body of water, and love that you're building that consistency in, like focusing in on your body. One of the reason why I asked that is because I'm like, it's so important. Like you'll find some people take care of one area of their life, like maybe they're really consistent at the gym, but then they're not taking care of their mind and their soul. And so I love that you guys have that full component, which is really, again, what my coaching program is all about, is like building that consistency in all of those areas to be more in alignment. so you can serve from a more whole place, and not a fractional version of yourself. So I love that. Well, one question I didn't ask, and I'm so curious, because you guys are both navigating like the startup world in Atlanta. Now, I have only visited Atlanta, I have family out there, but I'm not as familiar with that, startup world. And I know it's booming out there. Like, what has resources, just, community, and even networking been like out there, as you're building and scaling ReviewTailor?
Gosh, there is always something to do in Atlanta, which I can appreciate. It doesn't mean that you need to go to everything, but there's always something to do, a place to go, people to meet. So we initially started building out our community with Atlanta Tech Village, which is like literally right across the street from where we live at. And then we joined the Gathering Spot, of course, even though we joined Techstars Equitech, which is based in Baltimore, Maryland. When you're tech stars anywhere. And so there's a huge tech stars community here in Atlanta. Goody Nation has been an amazing support and resource since we've left the Tech Stars program. Different local HR groups like Sherm Atlanta, National Association of African Americans in HR has been a great resource as well. But these organizations and the community itself have really provided the space for opportunity and for networking and mentoring and just learning in a space to ask questions, from being able to connect with other founders, like figuring out, how to be an exhibitor somewhere. Again, the mentorship, just the space to go and collaborate has been very invaluable. Again, these things are at our disposal, but it's also about, being intentional on how they're used and knowing that not everything needs to be used at the same time as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. And it's so inspiring for me and it's a great reminder of just like how important community is, and really putting yourself out there. Like I'm naturally more introverted, which always surprises people when I say that, but I'm like,
We are too. We feel you.
are you? Okay.
We are.
No.
No, you
Demisha,
did, but
I am.
I am
Kristen,
too.
trying to
I
say
know
we. No,
because
no, no.
I feel like Kristen, you can get out there, you can work a room. Like
I love to be home minding my business. I really do.
I tell people all the time, I'm just at home minding my beautiful black business, okay? Like I am like I love my space, and I love being in my energy and really just my inner circles energy, but I do know like when you're trying to build a business that
Yeah.
most businesses require customers, almost every business. So it's like you got to put yourself out there. So I love that you guys are doing that. And it's really inspiring me to like kind of think about, what I have at my access here in Chandler. I'm out in Arizona. So I would say the tech market is building here. It's not as booming, I don't think, as Atlanta, but definitely growing. And I think COVID helped tremendously with that because a lot of companies opened up, different satellite offices here. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I always love to leave our audience with a little bit of tips and wisdom. And so I wanted to ask just a few questions around that. Like, first and foremost, like, what advice would you give employees on how to advocate for themselves, and own their performance narrative?
So I have some thoughts here, and then Laneisha, feel free to chime in if you so wish to. Uh, I would say three things that I would tell employees. One is to build your wellness team. And I say build your wellness team because sometimes we will tend to put that on the back burner and wait until it's too late and we need support and we're drowning. So your wellness team needs to be a therapist, a financial advisor, an employment attorney, a mentor, a board of personal advisors that you can lean into for insight and for feedback. The second thing is to have a plan. Right. So understand where you are today and be honest with yourself about where you are today. Think about where it is that you want to go, what's needed to get there, right? Those steps in between, and then build a realistic plan so that you can go and execute. Many times we just kind of navigate without having a clear vision or having some kind of idea of what's next. Hard to own a narrative when you don't know what the narrative is yourself. And then lastly, stay ready. Because I mean, if COVID has taught us nothing, and these last 2 years have taught us nothing, you need to stay ready. That's money wise. That's always, be networking, and keeping your receipts, right? So stay ready, keeping your receipts, staying organized. How are you, recapping emails, sending those memorandums? Where are you storing it at? So all of those are things I would recommend for employees to think about for being able to be in position to advocate for yourself.
Laneisha, do you want to add anything? I mean, that was like, I'm over here taking notes.
No, absolutely. No, she touched on all key good points. I used to tell my team the same thing.
Yeah.
Keep receipts. It starts with documentation. Track your wins. Don't wait
Mhm.
for your review. Document your contributions. Seek feedback
Mhm.
often, and then align your work with your company's goals. You'd be
Mhm.
surprised how many employees don't know what their company goals are. And
100%.
Mhm.
so if you don't know, then my advice would be to find out,
Mhm.
and then figure out how the work you're doing aligns with those company goals. Something I would do quite often is send an update to my leader. So as a remote employee, you can be overlooked pretty easily if you're not, tooting your own horn, as they say. So embrace the notion of managing up. Share how you've created value, what projects you worked on, and then don't be afraid to invest in professional development, especially if your employer is willing to sponsor it.
Mhm.
Ooh, loving those add-ons. And I love the managing up. And it's so important to not just up, but also across.
Yeah.
And so that's
That's right.
something that I, really push to employees or anyone I'm coaching is to get that visibility across the organization, because that's also how you create allies, and for people advocating for you, like outside of, meetings that you're just not, able to be in. And so love all of these. I mean, these are straight gems. So I hope y'all are writing these down. Like love, love, love all of those. Talk to me a little bit about, like, for leaders and HR professionals, like who kind of struggle just with the whole evaluating performance, review platforms and tools. Like, what are some key factors that they should consider when choosing a solution for the organization?
Yeah, there's a lot out there today.
Mhm.
So I can see how it could be overwhelming for that. Even with us when we're choosing different tech stacks for our business, it's like, man, there's so many, things for meetings, things for, these conference calls. Is it Zoom? Who's the competitor? Things of that sort. So for the performance management space, a great solution should enable continuous feedback. So employees and managers should have ongoing performance conversations. So not just once a year. That solution should also minimize bias. So the platform should offer structured, objective evaluations with some form of a built-in bias detection or a way to mitigate bias to ensure fairness. It should be user-friendly. We talk about this a lot, Kristin and I. If managers and employees don't find it easy to use, they won't engage with it, which
Nope.
makes adoption a challenge. And then lastly, it should provide actionable insights. Performance data should help drive development, not just sit in reports. And so choosing the right platform really should make performance management feel more collaborative and strategic rather than just another HR task.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think like the one question I would encourage people to think about as they get ready to look at solutions is, does it help to reinforce the behaviors that help to drive the culture that you want at your company? Because it doesn't matter how fancy the tech is, and again, to Lanisha's point, if people don't use it, it doesn't matter. But does this technology help to drive the behaviors that need to take place in order for you all to succeed?
That is so good. That is so good. And it's so spot on. And I think just even around the usage, like it is so important to have a user-friendly product that, everyone can kind of pick up and run with it. That's been one of my biggest pain points in organizations, like how many times we've had to have like so many trainings, on certain products that were just cumbersome and complicated, and so that's one thing I can say about ReviewTailor I just love. So my last question, and I love this question because this can be like, wisdom that you've received in your personal life or in your professional life, but what's one piece of wisdom or advice that has truly stuck with you and kind of guided you on this journey?
Laneisha, you want to go first?
Sure. So I would say, I might have touched on it a little bit earlier as well. Done is better than perfect. Perfection slows you down, but progress moves you forward. And so sometimes we can get in our own way. We can become stagnant because of our own desire to wait and do something once all the key ingredients are in place. So the faster you fail, the faster you get to the solution. So which one is worse, not taking action or taking action and failing? And so I usually go with the latter. I rather fail and then now I have an understanding of what worked versus what didn't to be able to make the necessary change. And so that can be applied in all aspects of life, personal, professional, and spiritual as well.
What about you, Kristin?
I think my piece of advice or what's guiding me is you can do hard things. Right. So life is going to be hard sometimes. Not everything is going to be easy. Roadblocks, like you mentioned, the no's, not getting the support that you think you should from certain people. It can be hard, right? It can be hard staying where you're at, and it can be hard growing, but we get to choose our hard. So know that you can do hard things.
Yes, I love that. We get to choose our hard. Absolutely. I posted about this, I think maybe like a couple years ago on social media. And it was like, one thing is hard. Excuse me, it's like working out is hard, not working out is hard, like choose your hard. And then it gave like a bunch of different examples. And so I love that you first know that you can do hard things, and know that in your mindset, but also challenging yourself to do hard things is really going back to Laneisha's point, is just doing, And so I love that. I have a quote that really three quotes that guide me, and I'll just quickly share. Some of the audience members who are regulars, they've heard this many times over, but I'll share this with you. And one of them is a Nipsey Hussle quote, because I love him and miss him dearly in all of his music, but he really speaks to like emptying yourself, and I love that, like it reminds me of this quote before I heard him say it, was by Irma Bombeck, and she's actually a woman writer that was out here in Arizona and has since passed away, but she has this quote: "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I wouldn't have a single bit of talent left, and I could say, I used everything you gave me." And so that is a guiding, kind of principle for me. And it just reminds me so much of what Nipsey was saying, how he just wanted to empty himself, like while he was here, to give as much as he could give. And so it kind of speaks to both of what you're doing hard things, but also like just doing, So, and the second one is by Maya Angelou. She says, your legacy is never one thing, but it's every life you touch.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are touching lots of lives. So I am just so grateful that our paths crossed, and that more importantly, you said yes to be on Sunday SoulDay. I really appreciate you guys blessing the show and our audience with your journey is so incredible, and your wisdom. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. No. Yeah, we say yes to Sunday SoulDay, but you said yes in the beginning to starting Sunday SoulDay. We know starting isn't always easy, so we pitch it right back to you. Thank you for starting this platform and the many other platforms that you have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And everyone, as always, have an incredible Sunday. And do us a huge favor, drop us a comment and tell us your favorite part about this interview, or even a piece of advice that you took from these beautiful ladies. Bye.